Well, as China imposed barley import tariffs today, some members of the Labor Party believe the Morrison government could have done more to protect our growers.
We are, whether we like it or not, highly dependent on these markets in China. We've persuaded our growers after CHAFTA to focus on China, and now we've let our farming community down by mismanaging this relationship.
Sky News Political Editor Andrew Clennell joins me now from Sydney. Andrew, I reckon it's a bit rich for Labor to have a bob each way here to say, you know, you've got to have a proper investigation into the origins of COVID-19, but when China reacts, argue we should have sidestepped sensitivities in order to avoid this sort of retaliatory behaviour. Either we stand up on issues like this or we don't.
Well, I guess their view is about the method, isn't it? And whether the government should have worked to get some form of coalition together and then push for the independent investigation, or if Marise Payne should have done that interview and pushed for it. Labor know that they certainly can't oppose the independent investigation. They know that all of Australia would support it. So, I think they believe that it could have been handled a little better. It could have been build the coalition first, not announce the thing and get the coalition, but they're not really game to say it because they know that the Australian people would support Scott Morrison and Marise Payne to the hilt on this one, Peter.
I think sometimes, though, in these diplomatic issues, you have to lead from the front and bring other countries forward by saying what is patently obvious. We must have an investigation into this virus and how it was spread. And then that would force constituencies in a lot of countries to be saying to their leaders, yeah, that's right, it makes sense, let's back it in. Otherwise, this stuff can be, you know, as you see now, watered down, pushed away. And China would then, I suspect, have used the last few weeks to put pressure on countries not to support anything. At least last night, we now have an inquiry. You can argue how strong it is, but we have an inquiry. And I think the government got 110 plus countries behind them in the coalition. I think it's a cheap shot by Labor. And I suspect the Australian community won't want game playing, politicking on this at all. Now, what did you make of that statement from the ambassador, the Chinese ambassador in Canberra? Well,
it's a concerning ratcheting up of things, isn't it? Really, I mean, he's the chief diplomat for China here. He's not being particularly diplomatic there, is he? And, you know, that's the second incident in a couple of weeks after basically threatening to encourage the Chinese people not to buy our products. So you can see Simon Birmingham today on Sky trying to keep a lid on it, just saying I'm not getting involved in that thing, disapproving of it, but not getting in a war of words. We'll see that vote on that motion tonight, Peter, at around midnight Australian time, I believe. There's another 20 countries to speak or so. And then there'll be a right of reply, and it may be the US and China speak again. And if there's any dissent, it doesn't go through. But China has shown that it looks like it will support it. It's just keen to make the point. It's a WHO thing. It's not what Australia asked for. And I guess technically on that they're correct, because they have, as you say, moved to water it down. There's a section in there the Australian government is saying means it is what we asked for, and that is that it's to investigate the zoonotic source of the virus, which means, of course, what actually happened in China as opposed to the reaction by the WHO, etc.
Yeah, look, I agree with you on that point, but the fact it doesn't mention China and that it also has the World Health Organization absolutely in the frame to conduct or be a part of, certainly not ruled out, of this inquiry, that leaves, I think, real questions about how funding committees. I've got to ask you, we're now getting to a situation across the country where we have a bit of a patchwork quilt of restrictions, some being eased here, some being eased there. Some where states have been quite clear in their plan, you know, on this date this will happen, on this date this will happen, and others not so clear. The New South Wales Cabinet met yesterday, I heard you say a bit earlier today. What do we know about how they're going to step us through the plans for our largest state?
Well, Gladys Berejiklian got upset that the plan to return to school got leaked, or the timing of it. So she just broadly outlined the approach and she'll decide it with her leadership group. So no decisions were made yesterday, but we do know that once schools go back next week, I think there'll be a movement, a stepping up of access to restaurants and cafes. Instead of 10 people, 20 and then 50 like other states, I believe. Zoos and museums to open. Most importantly, state travel to open up again. That's very important when you're the New South Wales Premier asking Queensland and other states to open their borders. So I think by July we'll see relaxation across the country. This last point, which is a point of major contention here, emerged last couple of days, Peter, is this interstate border travel. That needs to be loosened up as well.
Well, I'm going to get onto that right now. Thank you for your time, Andrew Clennell.